Don't you dare, ref. That's he got the ball. Good morning, Tottenham fans around the world. Rise and shine, ladies and gentlemen, because this is Tottenham's biggest game of the season as we travel out to Germany to defy all the odds, taking on Eintracht Frankfurt in the Europa League second leg. Now, this game does remain in the balance, but I do think as Spurs fans, we have to understand how much of a big task is ahead of us tonight. When you look at our European away record in general, you even take it from this season. AZ Alkmaar, absolutely shocking, lost away from home. Rangers put in a very below par performance that night. Galatasaray got absolutely smacked. You go into seasons before that, you have NS Mora, Vitesse Arnhem, Paços de Ferreira all away from home. And then Zagreb as well, even though we went out there with something to hang on to and their manager was in prison, we still managed to find a way to get absolutely humiliated. So our away form in general in Europe is not good. Also, our away form in general across all competitions is pretty poor. I think we've lost 6 out of our last 7 away from home, failing to score in 4 of them. And not only that, but Eintracht Frankfurt are yet to lose at home in Europe. That shows the mammoth of the task that is ahead of us tonight, let alone the news that we got that Son is not available for this game, despite what people's feelings are around his performance this season. A character like that, a player like that who has stepped up in European games in seasons gone by, you are going to miss, let alone the future around Ange Postecoglou. Many reports suggesting if we bow out tonight, Ange Postecoglou will lose his job. So there is so much pressure on tonight's game, and absolutely everything is telling me in the world that it cannot be done tonight. However, I am a Tottenham fan, and I always remain on to that 1% of hope and belief that we can defy all the odds and go and get the job done. And at the end of the day, Mickey van der Ven has also said the players are hoping to get it done for the manager. So big night for this football club ahead. Either we're going to be heartbroken and the club is going to be on blast absolutely everywhere, all across socials, and dominate it for months ahead, or we can kick on in Europe and that dream becomes one step closer. So look, let's get into it. The lineup that I think Ange Postecoglou will go with. Starting with the guy between the sticks, Guglielmo Vicario, I do think will retain his place despite a calamitous performance against Wolves on the weekend. And his 2 early mistakes really set the tone for the game, set the nerves into everybody else. And look, what transcended all started with Vicario on the day. And for me, unusual from him, and Postecoglou has also come out and stated as well that he will stay behind Vicario. He is his number 1 choice. He said that them mistakes are uncharacteristic from someone like Vicario and that he backs him to put it right. So look, he's coming into this game with a massive point to prove. Looking at Frankfurt last week, they will look to put some crosses in the box. They're not afraid to throw the cross in the box. He needs to come out and be assured, claim that ball with confidence, stop flapping about, punching about. All you're doing is making everybody nervous. And he is a good one-on-one shot stopper as well. But we need a massive performance from Vicario if we have any hope tonight. He is going to be under the pump. He is going to be tested. And I think he's going to be tested nice and early. I do think Frankfurt will look to use the home crowd, the energy around it. You heard what Topmuller said. You asked him how they're feeling about the game. He said, look, we're ready. We're excited, which tells me they're going to come out, show us something different to what they did in the first leg and press us. And I think they would look to press the likes of Vicario, who messed up against Wolves a couple of times with the ball at his feet. And it's been coming. In recent weeks, he's also been close to losing the ball with the ball at his feet as well. So he's going to have to anticipate that this is going to be the case and make sure he shows some composure and some calmness on the evening and set the right tone moving forward. But I think the night will start with how he holds up in the first 5 minutes. So we need a massive game from our shot stopper. Moving on out to left back, and Postecoglou pulled a massive surprise last week, starting Destiny Udogie at left back. Now, if those who watched the predicted lineup last week remember that I said I didn't think he was going to start the home game, but I think he was absolutely a cert to start the away game. Now, he played very well last week against Frankfurt, a lot better than what I thought he would, especially in possession as well. He was very good, which is my big gripe with the guy. Was rested against Southampton, which I think alludes to he is set to come in for a massive 90 minutes here. And ultimately, I thought he done well defensively and going forward. No complaints. Let's see if we can replicate that performance. Moving on out to right back, and for me, this is where the debate comes in. Now, Spence was surprisingly to many dropped for the home leg, played against Southampton, which you could allude to that he has no hope of starting tonight. However, I'd argue with Postecoglou's job on the line, with how vulnerable Pedro Porro is defensively, I think he's got no option but to go with Jed Spence. And I think this would be the right call. I think Jed Spence defensively is absolutely 10 times better than someone like Pedro Porro. Very rarely gives up opportunities or goals or makes mistakes. And going forward, he can get us going down this right-hand side. With Son being injured down that left-hand side, it's going to be very hard for us to try and replicate what we have done in recent weeks with the overlap getting crosses in, which means Postecoglou's going to have to find another solution. And I just wonder, will he use Jed Spence on the right-hand side going forward for that reason? Look, if Pedro Porro plays, we know what's going to happen. They're just going to hit long balls straight over the top. And you do that enough times, you are going to get joy. So for me, I think if Postecoglou wants to keep his job, he should be starting Jed Spence tonight. Moving into centre-back, and it will be Christian Romero and Mickey van de Ven. Let's start with Romero on the elephant in the room. He made a huge mistake against Wolves on the weekend. And what was really frustrating is he's one of the leadership group. We were just after getting a goal to get back in the game, and he goes and does that more or less straight after, which shows to me maybe a lack of nerves or maybe taking his foot off the gas for tonight. But tonight we need a massive performance from him. I do think one thing he needs to be switched on for is Ekitike. He did come down Pedro Porro's side. Now Pedro Porro let him inside far too easy. But I think that's where I need Romero to come out and show a bit more urgency to stop that shot. At the end of the day, this guy is their biggest threat. He poses their biggest goal threat. He had one opportunity last week. He took it. That's why they're still in the game. So I'd want to see more urgency from Romero, getting out there and closing them down. But we need a massive game from him to atone from that error. Also, in possession, he offers something just a little bit different. Doesn't always have to put the ball into Bentancur or out to the fullbacks. He has the ability to look for balls in over the top. And I think hopefully we can see one or two of them tonight as well, just to give us that point of difference. You know, especially if we're under pressure earlier on and they're pressing us. I think if we can't get the ball to Romero and look for him to hit the channels in behind and get us up the field that way if we're under pressure, rather than keep playing into the trouble, which eventually we know what happens off the back of that. And with Mickey van de Ven, look, he come out fighting in the pre-match press conference. You know, he said this team is still behind Ange Postecoglou. We're not looking for a way out. We're not looking for a different way of playing. We like this way of playing. We want to try and play this way. And ultimately, we want to win this game for Ange Postecoglou, which I find very interesting. So he is going to be very, very motivated for this game. And if that is the rhetoric coming out from the players, well, then they have nowhere to hide tomorrow night. Not one of them. From 1 to 11, they better stand up and make sure and make themselves countable. Now, moving into the midfield, and I do think this one sort of peaks itself. I think Rodrigo Bentancur comes in that deeper position, in that number 6 role. Look, I think he plays it better than any of the other options we have. I know some people might argue, give Archie Gray an opportunity. I don't think tonight is the night, and I don't think Bentancur is that big of a problem that we need to haul him out and just give someone an opportunity in there in a game of tonight's magnitude. One thing we need to see from him is, again, and he's shown he can do it, is a disciplined performance. Don't vacate that number 6 area unless you're going out either side to stop the ball coming down that side. Protect the back line and allow us to get back. Apart from that, even in possession, I just want to see you get on that ball and push it through the lines. I don't even want to see you play sideways. One thing I like about Bentancur in this position is at times he does have the tendency to be able to push it through the press or the midfield block into players in an advanced position. We need to see that from him tonight. Also, making up the rest of the midfield, I think Lucas Bergvall will come back in tonight. Made a massive mistake at the weekend. I do highlight it's not the first time we've seen this from Lucas Bergvall. It's happened 3 or 4 times this season. Once or twice is a mistake and it can happen. 3 or 4 times is a pattern. Now look, I take into full account, and I'm not going too hard on the kid. He's 19, he's made a massive step up. You learn as you go along. You learn to eradicate them mistakes. But he cannot afford to make that mistake tonight. He has to be perfect in that deeper position, not take as much risk, not be as much vulnerable, stop turning into trouble. At the end of the day, the one against Spurs are stupid. If he just turned out to the left-hand side, it's completely avoidable rather than running into the guy. But we need a massive performance. One thing Lucas Bergvall, I think, does very well, and I think that's something we have been missing with Kulusevski being out injured, is someone that can actually pick up the ball and travel with it. I think Lucas Bergvall does that very, very well. Hit the post last week with an unbelievable effort. Might take something special like that to send us through tonight. We need a massive performance from him. If not, I would bring in Papa Matasar, who I think is, Spurs fans are being a little bit harsh on him at the moment. I think I would go with Papa Matasar tonight. I'd look to bring Bergvall into the game later on. The reason why, again, I think the first 20-30 minutes could be an absolute dogfight. And I just think Papa Matasar offers you a little bit more protection and keeps you in the game that little bit longer. And then you bring Bergvall in later on to impact the game. However, I don't think that's the way Postecoglou's going to approach it. And then to complete the rest of the midfield will be James Maddison. Now, I think this is Postecoglou's biggest job heading into tonight's game, especially with some being out injured. The next player you look at across that front line and that midfield to bring that decisive moment tonight, I think most people will agree, it will come from someone like Maddison. Now, this is where I think Postecoglou's biggest job is tonight. He hauled him off early last week when we were chasing, looking to go and get that goal. And it irked many of the fan base, and it even irked James Maddison. I think he has a huge job trying to get him back on side and focus for tonight's game. And I'm telling you now, if we are chasing this game and he takes off James Maddison, I'm going to lose it, because at the end of the day, we bought James Maddison to be that guy, to unlock that sort of pick when we're in moments like that, be that decisive guy, provide that decisive ball. But we're not giving him a chance to do it because we keep taking him off. And for me, I just can't help but feel if we kept Maddison on, we would have nicked that game 2-1. And look, when it comes to James Maddison as well, he has 3 Europa League goals away from home this season. And he played, like I said, he played a key role in the first leg. So for me, if it's proven that anyone is going to step up away from home, he has done it this season. And that's why I think a lot of it really relies on James Maddison stepping up and finding these cojones tonight. And then that moves us into the forward line. And we will start with the left-hand side. Of course, we got the news that Sonny didn't travel to Germany. He is out injured. He's been carrying a foot problem for quite some time. Now, this season, in terms of numbers, I know a lot of people have had their criticisms of his performances, but you are missing 11 goals and 11 assists, and you're taking that out of the team. And look, let's be honest, in years gone by in Europe, he's been the guy that's sort of been a difference maker on this occasion, and plus he's club captain, so we are going to miss him. But it's a prime opportunity for someone like Mathys Tel to come in tonight and say, hang on, I can take over that mantle. I can take that torch and bring it forward. So I think there's a huge opportunity for players across the front line tonight to stand up and be counted and be that guy we can rely on. Look, with Mathys Tel, he is coming into this game with 2 goals in his last 3 games. Comes in off the back of a decent performance against Wolves. But the reality is that's recency bias. For large parts, we haven't seen anywhere near enough from Mathys Tel. However, maybe it's a case he took a while to settle in, and now maybe he's just starting to get going. And hopefully that could be at the right time for Tottenham Hotspur. And at the end of the day, he's played out in Germany. He's played away to Frankfurt. Maybe we should be leaning on that experience heading into that game tonight. But we need a massive game from him down that left-hand side. And I want to see him be nice and direct. When he gets that ball, I don't want to see him slow it down. I don't want to see him pass it inside. At the end of the day, use what your abilities give you. You are quick. You are very quick in terms of your acceleration, being able to manipulate that ball at your feet very quickly. Use that to your advantage. Take players on. Take them out of the game. Be creative. You do that, you will earn yourself a spot in this team between now and the end of the season. We need a massive game from Mathys tonight, and hopefully he can find that goal. Now, moving on to the right-hand side. Look, massive call. Do you go with Brennan Johnson? Do you go with Wilson ODOBERT? Look, Brennan Johnson has scored 16 goals this season, has proven he can arrive at the right place at the right time. However, you look at his records this season, and in general, he performs against a lot of the smaller teams. When it comes to the big occasion, Brennan Johnson goes missing. And I'm not being funny, against Frankfurt last week, had his opportunity to prove us all wrong. Didn't take it. Was absolutely useless on the night. Useless again at the weekend. And for me, you put him out there again, what hope have we got? And I think Postecoglou needs to realise this. For me, I'd bring in Wilson ODOBERT twofold. One, I think he probably would have started last week if he didn't have that hamstring injury. But also, two, he can also arrive in at the right place at the right time. He proved that with the 2 goals against AZ Alkmaar to send us through to this point. And not only that, I think he's an all-round better player and has a higher ceiling than Brennan Johnson. He gets on the ball, he's direct, he takes people on, creates space for other people around him. And at the end of the day, if there is no sun, we can't rely on that left-hand side to be the main source of creativity like it has been all season. We have to come up with a different avenue. And for me, that's the main reason why you go with Wilson ODOBERT, for that creativity. At the end of the day, we need to create chances to be able to take them. So for me, I think I would start with Wilson ODOBERT. Basically, you've got two of the French under-21 players in this starting lineup. Let's see how good they can perform, and let's see if they can bring this sort of fresh, dynamic duo going forward that we need in this forward line. Can they be the guys? Let's wait and see, but we need a massive game from both of them off either side. And then up front, look, there's a large possibility that Postecoglou will keep his faith in someone like Dominic Solanke. And look, it could come down to really how long Richarlison is fit for. If Richarlison has 55, 65 minutes in him, I think you start him. If he's only got 30 minutes, then of course you don't start him. You're not going to haul him off after 30 minutes, and you will have to bring him in off the bench. However, when you look at someone like Richarlison, that goal at the weekend, that wasn't luck. He sniffed that out. I don't think Dominic Solanke sniffs out goals like that, to be quite frank. And also, when you look at Richarlison's record of starting games under Ange Postecoglou, 16 goals and 5 assists in 27 appearances. That's 21 goal contributions in 27 starts under Ange Postecoglou. And that then brings me on to the question of quality. You know, does it come down to the quality of both players? Is Richarlison just better than Dominic Solanke? At the end of the day, you know, Richarlison should be moved on. He hasn't been available for nearly 3 years, you know, at this football club. But the reality is, if he can find goals in this team, and he has done, why can't Dominic Solanke? Do we make too many excuses for him? And, you know, not only that, but he came off the bench earlier on in the season against Everton after coming back from a long injury layoff and scored. So for me, you look at Dominic Solanke, he's out of form. He's out of confidence. Right now, he doesn't believe in himself. He's running around with his head down. The ball's bouncing off from left, right, and centre. When a chance presents itself, he's never really striking it cleanly. He always makes it look difficult. For me, you drop him tonight. Yes, he works hard, but so does Richarlison. You bring in the pigeon, let him come on, and let's see if he can, you know, get us that goal. Because if anyone has proven it out of the strikers so far, despite Richarlison being out injured for 3 years, it's been him. Even though Dom Solanke's had a lot of time. So for me, that's the lineup that I think Postecoglou would go with tomorrow night. I think that forward line would spring a massive surprise. I think it's athletic. You know, it's quick, it's skillful, it has a goal in it, and who knows, could be that spark that we actually need to kickstart us between now and the end of the season. All hope, I know, but at the end of the day, I am one of them guys, despite everything in the universe telling me no, I prefer to go, do you know what? Yes, it can be done. Be that renegade. Hopefully we can win tonight. Look, massive, massive day and evening for this football club. So much of the future of this football club depends on the outcome tonight. Hopefully the players have heard Mickey van de Ven's message. They want to do it for him. Not only that, hopefully you do it for us. Because them 21 losses that we've incurred so far this season have been absolutely heartbreaking and soul-destroying to watch. So not only do you need to do it for your manager, you need to do it for us tonight. We're still here despite all the losses. Still here chanting your name, etc. Make sure you turn up tonight. I mean, it's not hard to ask, right? Just turn up for one away game this season. It's really not hard to ask. And at the end of the day, all this pain has to be for something. So hopefully we can get the win tonight and kick on in the Europa League. But guys, that's everything. That's what I've got to say ahead to tonight's game. Please give me your thoughts in the comment section below. Your team selections, anything you agree or disagree with. Please make sure you run the likes up on this as well on your way out. And I'll see you back here at 5 p.m. for the pre-match build-up for the big one tonight. As always, come on you Spurs. Auf Wiedersehen.